Good evening, everybody. Thanks, Leslie. That was a good introduction. Let's start by just coming into some presence here in the room, since we've been all out in the cold for a while, and maybe just take a few moments. This is a guided meditation, and I've designed it in my head to correspond with the rest of the talk tonight. So let's just start with some simple meditation to get ourselves settled for the evening. So just to become aware of how your body needs to settle in the chair. Let it find its spot that's comfortable. You may need to move a few times during the meditation, just as the body makes itself known and slight areas of discomfort show up. The important thing to recall over and over is, I have a body. There is a body. And at this moment, this body is supported by a chair. The chair is supported by the floor. The feet are supported by the floor. And there is a growing awareness that this body is mine for the time being, and it holds me. There might be specific messages that your body is telling you as you begin to tune into the reality of your body. You may have just had dinner and there's a little backfiring going on, or you may not have had your dinner yet and there's a sensation of hunger perhaps, maybe a bit of tension from the day. There's no need to change anything in the body, just to notice it's there and respect that it's doing its thing right now for you. So there is a body, and inside the body there are lungs, and we can take our attention to the feeling of what the lungs are doing right now, which is breathing in and breathing out. You just allow them to do what they know how to do. And you will feel the sensation of the breath coming in and the breath leaving. And once you have breathed out, allow the body to pause, and don't try to breathe in. Just let the body do its own breathing for you. There is no need to interfere. The bell tells us that it's time to return to the room, and an awareness of the people around us and how we're feeling now, perhaps compared with how we felt when we came in. There is no judgment, but I'm guessing that some of you have felt a sensation of relaxing into the body a bit. Others, maybe a lot of thoughts have come up from the day that they finally have space to emerge, and maybe feeling a little more restless than you were when you came in. That's okay too. There is no judgment. We're going to have a couple more meditations as the evening goes on, just to help us reflect on some of the things that come up in the talk. So, as Leslie said, Christine became ill yesterday, and one of the things that she advertised for the talk tonight was that she would be speaking about inner calm and reporting on some of the science behind that phenomenon of feeling wellness in the spirit, in the body, feeling relaxed and calm. I do not have access to that information, so you're shortchanged on that one tonight. I don't have any scientific information for you, but I'm hoping what I do provide will be helpful. And I think it's going to fit in with the next couple of talks, too, from the sounds of the titles, so I hope so. I want to start with a story, and this story takes place in my life when I was somewhere between 5.5 and 6.5, and it's probably one of the most formative experiences in my life, but it was very brief. I was a kid that had night terrors. I don't know if you ever had them yourself, or if you had kids that wake up in the night and they're screaming for no particular reason. It's just kind of nameless dread, afraid of everything and nothing in particular. And I had these episodes of panic, maybe more often than was considered normal at the time. This was in the year 1956, so nobody knew anything about, what's behind all this at that time. But my father would come in when I woke up screaming in the night, and he would always comfort me and tell me everything was okay, as a good parent should. And one night when it happened, I remember this so vividly, he said, "The next time this happens to you," my second name is Victoria, so he always called me Vicky. "Next time this happens to you, Vicky, I want you," remember I'm between 5.5 and 6.5, "I want you to get out of bed and put on your house coat and go downstairs and go out the front door onto the porch or onto the driveway, and I want you to look at the stars and look at the sky. And you're going to see that everything is okay in the universe." What a thing to tell. What a wonderful thing to learn. And he was very reassuring about this. My dad was a Mason and a Presbyterian, for better and worse. We had fierce arguments in later years, but he did have a very strong belief in the sense of architecture of the universe, that there is a rhyme and a reason for things. There's nothing out of place. It may seem chaotic at the subatomic level. It probably is, electrons flitting all over, and it's all probability. But in the bigger picture, there is an order that's there. It's all, everything belongs, and there is a place for everything in the universe. And that was the first thing I learned from that night with my dad, was that there is order. And that is very comforting to know that even though in our heads there can seem to be a great deal of disorder, we can remember that, in fact, bigger than us is a universe that is nothing but order. Things happen. I mean, there are explosions of nebulae and it seems disorder, but everything has a reason and a purpose for happening the way it does. The second thing that I learned from that evening was that I'm part of that the universe contains me, that I'm part of that order. And it's not that when you look at the universe, you know how you say, I look up in the sky and I feel so small. No, I didn't feel small at all. I wasn't taught that. I was taught you're part of the order. There's a place for you in this big scheme. These are very reassuring things to tell a child. The third thing that I learned from this that I didn't realize until quite a bit later was what he was saying in having me go down at such a young age by myself, out the front door, outside in my house coat, is that I can figure this out for myself. Right? That this is up to me to figure this out. He's going to help me, he'll support me, but in the end, it's up to me. I'm responsible for my understanding of my place in the universe. That was an important lesson. And the fourth thing that was important was that how crucial it is to be around, and this I realized much later, having been with my father for the first 18 years of my life, is how important it is to be around people who believe this, who see order in the universe. How spending time with people who have trust in things is so vital to how we manage, how we learn to feel trust in the universe, is being around people who also feel trust. It was a very important story for me. The topic for tonight is inner calm, and I think that my own sense of inner calm, which varies like everybody else's, I'm not always that calm. Right, Leslie?
Working on it.
We're working on it. It's a work in progress. But the fact that I have confidence that it can be done stems from those moments with my dad in the middle of the night. It's not from anything I learned earlier. It was learned later. It started right then in the parenting that I had from my dad. There are a number of barriers to this progression towards finding a sense of peacefulness inside ourselves, or a sense of hope and relaxation, a sense of settling back into the world as it is with a hopeful and positive outlook. And one of those barriers is an addiction in our society to stimulation, right? We are always being bombarded. Social media is the worst and most obvious example, but you cannot be peaceful. In fact, I have a friend who said, when I just sit by myself, I get agitated. I don't know how to be by myself without, incoming data all the time. But the place this really came home to me was I got to go to a hockey game, an NHL game, in December here in Calgary. And I hadn't been to one for about 5 years. And the Jumbotron in the middle, well, it was right across from it's kind of right across from where everybody's sitting. But it was huge, and it was just blaring all the time. You could not find quiet in that arena. And the only time you could is when the game was in play. I was just so thankful that they stopped the music and I could just watch some hockey for a while, because it was really a great game, and Ottawa won. I was the only fan in the building for Ottawa, but at one point the Jumbotron came on with this thing. Everybody's making piles of noise. It's deafening in there, but the logo was, "There is not enough noise in here. Let's make it louder." And the letter, you can all imagine the colors and the flashing, the louder. And so everybody, and I just thought, this is, I can't cope with this. But it is emblematic of our society. It was sort of writ large for me, how profoundly addicted we are to stimulation, and how difficult it is for us to be still and quiet. So the other part of this is that it is sometimes a strain for us to maintain our social relationships when we can't. Everybody is in a lather around us, and the only way we can be with our group is to reflect their behavior, right? We have to be hyper and wild and worried about something or angry about something like everybody else. There's a lot of social pressure to conform to other people's hysteria. And that's exhausting, but it costs us socially sometimes, because if you're not upset like I am, you don't get the problem. That's kind of the message that you get. You don't understand how bad this is because you don't seem to be very upset. Maybe I understand very well, but I'm calm about it. But that's not always a great social bonding mechanism, to be calm when everybody else is upset or excited, so it's difficult for us to represent calmness when we're out socially, because the norm is not that. It's to conform to a more excited environment. So there's also a personal addiction to stimulation. And I'm reminded of a great story that Jack Kornfield told many years ago, and I don't even know where anymore, but he was talking to college students in the States about enlightenment And how many people wished to pursue a spiritual path and become enlightened? And one girl put up her hand and said, I don't want to be enlightened. It would be boring. Nothing would happen. I would just be peaceful all the time and nothing would happen. And I would be bored stiff. And so she did not want to she did not want to go down that path. In fact, the opposite is true. Life becomes much more interesting and you can be much more effective from a calm place. But that's not immediately obvious to a 22-year-old college kid, I guess. So, but we do sometimes in ourselves, we notice, don't we, how I need to have this kind of stimulation. It's so hard to sit on the bus without, or drive your car without music, without looking at your phone, waiting in line, waiting to see a physician, go for your annual physical, and he's delayed. What do? You pull out your phone. It's just automatic. And there's nothing really right or wrong about it, but it does not contribute to perhaps what might be a higher goal, which is a state of inner peace that will sustain you in hard times through your life. It attenuates that movement towards peacefulness. One of the other barriers to inner calm is an inattentiveness that we have to our feeling states. You may have noticed in the first meditation tonight that, oh, gee, I wasn't aware of how tense my shoulders were. I wasn't aware that I was kind of irritated about something that happened on the drive down. Or, I didn't realize I ate so much for dinner. So we're not aware of the feeling states that we had, and they may be good feeling states too, and that's a problem because I wasn't aware what calmness felt like. Gee, I felt pretty peaceful there, and it went right over me. I didn't even realize that it was there. I missed it because we're not attentive to our feeling states. And that was part of the purpose of the meditation tonight, the first one. Just begin to tune into what are my feelings? What is the reality for me in this moment right now? Because once you know that, then you can begin to work with what's there. Do I need to, let a few things go? Leslie's going to be talking about letting go peacefully. Are there ways that I can relieve myself of some of these things that actually are torments for me? Conversely, are there ways that I can cultivate states that are pleasant, for one thing, but also move me towards compassion for myself, for other people, make me more effective in my work, make me feel better in myself? So to cultivate those states and perhaps to let go of some of the others that aren't so useful. Sometimes the last barrier, as I see it, to inner calm is that we're not willing always to accept our feeling states as they are. I mentioned the word a couple of times, the words no judgment, right? We tend to castigate ourselves. Oh, I'm really tense about this, and I shouldn't be tense. And we tend to want to push away what's present because we don't think we should be like that. So there's a tremendous amount of judgment, isn't there, that we bring to how we are. Oh, I'm good now, but 5 minutes ago I was bad. We're constantly judging. And that's it's very difficult to reach down into a state of inner calm when we're constantly judging, am I calm or not? Am I tense or not? As if it's a moral state. It's not a moral state, it's just a reality of what your body is telling you in response to conditioning that you've had since childhood. Stuff happens, we respond, we react. It's how we are. And until we become conscious of it and just aware of how am I right now? Oh, I'm like this. Okay. I can make friends with this and start to play with it a bit and perhaps ease some of my discomfort about it, how I'm feeling. So the element of judgment, I invite you to not judge that you're judging, but notice how judgmental you can be towards yourself. It's a rough road we make for ourselves. I've done it a lot, so I know it intimately. But it feels so much better to release that I should be this, I shouldn't be that mentality about how we are, because that really interferes with moving down the path, allowing things to ease out, find their place. The harmful things leave us more gently. The good things kind of get cultivated. It's a very gentle process. But when we're harsh with ourselves, we're pushing the process too hard. We're making it too stressful and too much strain, which goes against the whole point of the thing. So those are 4 barriers to inner calm. The social addiction to stimulation, the personal addiction, the fear of being calm because it might be boring, inattentiveness to feeling states. We're not aware of how we're feeling a lot of the time, and the tendency to judge our states when we do tune into them. 4 things. Now, we talk about inner calm as if it's something that's just peaceful. We're just sitting here, we're at ease. But in fact, there is some work involved in creating a state of inner calm. And what it involves is developing the muscles of mindfulness, the ability to focus, the training of the mind to focus on what is going on within me and within me in response to my environment right now. And that takes a certain mental capacity that needs to be cultivated. We don't come by that necessarily very easily. It's not natural to us. There's where the work of this practice comes in. And I don't mean to make it sound like heavy lifting work, but there is a certain amount of discipline in training the mind to be able to follow that path towards inner peace, inner calm. And when we look at the process of meditation, traditionally, there are 2 aspects to it. One is what we call concentrative exercises, concentration. The other is insight. The concentration is it's not going to lead you to nirvana, concentration, but it is going to strengthen the mind to the point where you can see clearly what is going on in yourself. And then you use the insight aspect of meditation to begin to reflect on what's going on and make some decisions about what you choose to discard, choose to keep, watching it unfold, watching the impermanence of the feelings. All those more reflective aspects of meditation are in that insight part. But it's really hard to do that unless you've got the muscles that are developed through the concentration exercises that are the other part of meditation. So it is important to develop even a tiny practice of meditation. You don't even have to call it meditation, just a concentration exercise to train the mind, to make it a little stronger. It makes it stronger so you can focus better, and you'll find it works all through your life, not just on understanding yourself, but you'll read better. You'll remember things better. Your mind becomes clearer and sharper with this practice. But it also helps you, I lost my thought. Speaking of clear mind, just a minute, I'm going to look at my note. I don't know, that thought really just kind of made
You let it go.
I let it go, yeah. It wasn't even harmful. It was a good one. So, it'll come back if it's supposed to. So, but it's a bit like training the mind is a bit like training muscles in the gym. And, I know what it was. Oh, okay. So I was talking about doing a concentration exercise. It's very helpful to spend, no matter what you call it, to spend a few moments every day practicing paying attention. And the breath exercise that we did tonight is perfect. 5 minutes a day will do you to start. Some people are more heroic than that. But sometimes even for me, and I'll bet for you too, 5 minutes is both the maximum and the minimum. So, that's as far as we get on some days. But over time, that really builds up so that you just little by little are empowering the mind to do its thing, to do what it's supposed to do, which is observe carefully and see clearly and stay focused and not wander off and not get distracted by all kinds of other needs and wants and idle stuff that doesn't really need to be there but takes up a lot of space. So going back to training like at the gym, at first you find that the muscles are a bit stiff and you think, gee, this isn't really making me very relaxed in my body because I'm working out and it's hard work. It's not easy to practice concentration exercises, just like it's not easy to work out at the gym, lifting weights. It's hard. And so it doesn't always bear fruit immediately that you think, oh, I'm so relaxed. Well, no, actually, I'm stiff and sore and I can barely get out of bed. So, but over time, once the muscles have learned what to do and have gotten some strength, then you can start to relax. So there's sometimes that process of training the mind that is tough and you think, oh, this isn't taking me anywhere, I need to go. But give it a little more time with some regular practice and you'll find, oh yeah, I'm starting to, yeah, I can stay with this thought for a little longer and see what it's like. Or I can stay with the breath and hey, it feels okay. And I'm starting to settle back into the breath, settle down. Oh, I can just stay with this. I don't have to start making my laundry list or right now. I can just stay with the breath. Tonight I was doing some meditation before I came. I was a bit nervous because I didn't have a very long time to prepare this, so I was a bit concerned. So I was meditating, but my girlfriend phoned me and they're visiting tomorrow. And she said, I just wanted to confirm the time. And I said, well, yeah, that's great. She said, what are you doing? I said, well, actually, I'm meditating. But what I was really doing was planning the recipe for lunch because I was trying to decide whether to. So I was way off. So, but less and less does that happen. And even when you do wander off, it becomes easier to bring your mind back to the object of focus, which tonight we're going to practice with the breath. So don't be discouraged the first few times you try this because it takes a while to build it in, but you notice it doesn't take very long to see, oh, I can look at this person and see them more clearly, or I can read this page and not get distracted. I don't have to jump to check who just dinged me on my phone. I can wait. So you're just that's the beginning of the creation of inner calm. So concentration creates a lot of stability for developing a calm interior. And that's the only effort that you need to make, is just that concentration effort. You want to try a little breathing, just in view of what we've just been talking about. So let's go back to the breath, and we'll take maybe, I'm thinking maybe I stop at 8.
Yes.
All right, let's say 4 minutes. So, and I will ring the bell when it's time. So just resume the posture that you had before, if that was comfortable, or find a new one. You can keep your eyes open or closed as you wish. There's no wrong way to do this. You do what feels correct for you in the moment, and if you feel you need to shift as you settle in, then you shift. So you're not in a straitjacket here. You're just letting it be. And we'll just go back to the body for a few moments. There is a body. And it's a pretty wonderful body because you've been able to sit here so far this evening. It's holding you up. It's breathing for you. It's doing all kinds of wonderful things to keep you on the earth. So just to give it its honor and respect. And as you settle a little bit, you'll become aware of the movement of the abdomen or the chest, the air coming in and out. Just see if you can keep the attention on that movement, not forcing it, not changing it. This is not a breathing exercise, it's just an observation. How does my body breathe? The breath feels like this. It's likely that some of you have had some intrusive thoughts, either welcome or unwelcome thoughts, or you've wandered off, you've been distracted by something. And once you become aware of that having been distracted, then just come back to the breath. You always have the body and the breath to come back to. They're always there. So you just come right back. And don't be afraid of letting go of whatever was distracting you. It's not going anywhere either. Did some of you become aware of how tired you are? I don't mean you. Did anybody go to sleep? I've done it lots of times. Yeah. We're tired. Our bodies are tired. That's to be respected. And sometimes it's helpful if you do find that, oh man, I can hardly keep awake. Just explore while you still got a little bit of wakefulness. Explore that sensation of fatigue. We often just dismiss it. Oh, I'm tired, and that's kind of it. What does fatigue feel like? We often don't know. What is fatigue? Who's fatigued? Where am I fatigued? What am I fatigued about? Am I worried or am I fatigued? I mean, there's much to be gained from exploring fatigue before you fall off your chair completely. But sometimes that can be a wake up, just to notice fatigue. It's a very real sensation, and it's telling you something important.
We did have someone fall off their chair once.
Oh,
Oh my gosh.
Did it have a happy outcome?
He was okay. I woke up everyone else.
Yeah, right. I know we're supposed to wait till 8 for the Q&A, but I'm just wondering if there's any comment or question you'd like to make right now, in view of the, yeah.
So I was thinking that because I do body scan, then the
Yeah.
relaxation happens, and then automatically I go to bed.
Yeah.
So that's what
Yeah.
that's why I keep my eyes open, half open.
Yes.
because otherwise that's a signal to my mind.
Yeah, it is a signal. Your brain learns, doesn't it, that a body scan and that kind of settling that we're doing is a cue to go to sleep. Your mind learns that. So if you're having trouble sleeping, great suggestion. But do distinguish it from the meditation that you do during the day. That's a different, and I try to do a different kind for when I'm awake as opposed to when I want to go to sleep. Otherwise, I just go to sleep during the day, doing the one I did at night, and that's no good. And keeping your eyes open, yeah, is a good way if you really are committed to staying awake. Sometimes you just need to go lie down, have a snooze. So, but if you do want to maintain a bit of wakefulness, it's helpful to keep the eyes open. So I have a number of Oh, there was another question here. Sorry. Yeah.
It was just more of a comment. Last week I went for like a scalp massage and a facial for my birthday.
Nice.
And it was very relaxing, but I felt just as relaxed just now doing that than I did finishing that. It kind of made me think about like that, I guess, kind of chase for that, stimulating behavior, right? Like it's a relaxing thing, but you can get a similar relaxing effect just by being in your body and breathing for a bit.
Absolutely, you can achieve the same thing just by being in your body and breathing, and it's a lot cheaper.
Yeah. It was 4 minutes.
Yeah, it's very true. I'm so glad you said that. That's really great.
I mean, I enjoyed the facial as well.
Okay, yeah, sure. No.
But it's nice to have that tool in your...
It's a tool. It's most definitely a tool. And there was a point I was going to make later, but since you brought it up now, I'll just say what you were feeling that you were describing it sort of through your face and your chest. There is a feeling here of settling back. And because we live our lives leaning forward a lot. And Joseph Goldstein, one of the great American Buddhist teachers, I'm sure most of you have heard of him, he talks about that as a form of clinging, that we're always grasping for the next moment, the next thing. It's the clinging of becoming, the wish to always be 2 steps ahead of where we are now. And what you're describing is the beginning of settling back into the present moment. That's where inner calm is found, not in constantly waiting for the next thing to happen. And so in the body you can sometimes feel that happening as the body, did you notice this, it sort of settles back into the back of your chair because it's recognizing that, this present moment is enough. Right? I'm not greedy for anything else right now. Well, maybe you are. I don't know what was going on in your minds, but you recognize that comfort that the body can take in just settling into the present moment. That's almost another definition of inner calm, is relaxing into what is present right now without wanting anything to be different, without needing anything to be different. I mean, there are many things in this world, as we know, that we need to change. Leslie alluded to climate. So there are many things we need to devote ourselves to make the world a better place. But it's a lot easier and a lot more effective to do that if you're in the present in your body. Then you know what's going on right now, and you can work with that. Thanks. Anybody else? Yeah, Deb.
I was struggling tonight. Before I came in, having a lot of pain issues these days, and I heard myself starting to say, I'm just aching all over, and I had to catch myself and go, where am I not aching?
Yeah. Yeah.
My baby finger isn't aching, and when I said that, I realized, well, there's lots of other parts that are not aching.
Yeah.
And that was just helpful for me in that moment, because being so intrusive and distracting.
Yeah.
It's really, sometimes it's really hard to get distance on.
Oh, a brilliant example. That was another point I was going to. So let's talk about that right now. How we dramatize, particularly pain, right? And it becomes a thing, and we embellish it, and we start talking, and you heard yourself start, I'm aching all over. Wait a minute. You stopped yourself wisely, because it's not all over, but we turn it into this all-encompassing thing, and then we start going down that road of, okay, well, it's really bad now, it's only going to get worse, what am I going to do, when I'm going to be, and my husband does it, so it bought an electric bike. Okay, so is the next step a wheelchair? Is that like, where do we go from here? You know, just catastrophizing it. So, but and we all do this because of that addiction to drama that I was describing before, that addiction to stimuli. We tend to embellish stuff. So let's back off from the embellishment and just get down to what's present right now and what's real, and what am I telling myself? Because there's a million stories going around in our minds telling us all kinds of things, many of which aren't true. And it's important to recognize that you don't have to believe everything your mind tells you. It's telling you a lot of junk. You know, old stuff, old stories that probably didn't happen the way you thought anyway. But, you know, you just, all these tapes. And you have the option, as Deb described, of changing the channel. Once you have that concentrative practice, I can manage my mind. I have the power in my mind to move to a different way of thinking about this, to take a different perspective.
Even just slightly change the sentence of it. It's like, okay, I'm very achy today, but that was way better for me than I'm aching all of it.
Yeah.
When I changed it, I had to catch myself and start noticing, or am I not? Anyway.
Well, let's take it a step further. You went from, I'm aching all over. I have some pain. I'm aching all over. I'm achy today. So you took a step away from that dramatic sort of all-encompassing. Could you go another step and say, there is pain in me at the moment? That is a huge change of language that makes a world of difference, because all of a sudden you're not identified with your pain. The pain is all about me. I'm in pain. I'm achy, which is better than I'm aching all over, but it's maybe not as good as I am in the body. There is pain in me at this moment. And I can step, in saying that, you're separating yourself from the fact of pain. Doesn't necessarily make the pain any better, but it at least gives you a perspective on it that doesn't catastrophize, and it doesn't make it worse. In fact, Norman Fisher is a Buddhist, he's a rabbi, but he's a Buddhist teacher, Zen Buddhist teacher. And he said, Buddhism is, the main purpose of Buddhism is, let's not make a bad situation worse. And that's what we tend to do. And we can not do that so much by changing the language that we use to describe our experience. So, yeah, thank you, Deb. That's great. Anybody else? Any other comments? Yeah.
What do you think are the key factors for a 10-year-old hyperactive boy who has ADHD? Hard to get away from the screen.
Oh.
What do you think for mindfulness? Just the breathfulness.
I've been giving this a lot of thought because there's a lot of discussion now, particularly in the States, about mindfulness in education and how great it is for kids, and kiddies are learning how to meditate in school and all that. I have a few questions about this in terms of developmental stages and whether it's entirely always appropriate to teach children the kind of sophisticated mental work that we're talking about tonight at an age where there's a lot of maturity that hasn't happened in the mind. I don't know for sure, but I'm just a little bit careful about saying, oh yeah, a 10-year-old boy with ADHD, he should try some meditation. I'm not sure whether that would be disruptive given the state of his mind in that moment at that age, or whether it would be helpful, whether conceptually it's too difficult. I'm not sure. But what I do think is crucially important for all those kids with ADHD is that they are around mindful people. Remember how I was saying earlier on, talking about with my dad, how important it was for me to be with him for 18 years. He was like that. He had that kind of trust of it. I learned that. So I think it's very important for adults to model healthy perspectives and healthy spirituality rather than preach it. and try to convince kids to be that way. I think kids absorb a lot by just watching you, watching your responses to things. That's not going to solve the problem of that particular 10-year-old boy with ADHD. But that's my thought on it, that there's a lot of role modeling around him that needs to happen that will be quite influential, I think, rather than, without a lot of really solid research to back it up, I'm not sure how helpful taking a kid who's that stricken with ADHD and saying be mindful. I think that, I don't know what you think, Leslie, but I think that might be a bit explosive.
I could maybe help because I have a 9, almost 10-year-old grandson.
Yeah, help us out.
Yeah, and he likes to move. Like, you can tell if he's sitting around too much, he needs some kind of movement. So maybe the men in here would, I couldn't understand it. My husband, who's his loving grandfather, bought boxing gloves. So they go down the basement and they box.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's bad, you're teaching him to fight. But I guess boys like fighting. It's just the way, some boys. And it gets the tension out. And he's exhausted by the end of it. And my husband's had a good time.
But he's also learned how to direct his energy.
Yes. Yeah.
In a protected way.
Yeah.
So it's not chaotic for him. So I think
Yeah.
in the mind of a kid like that, it's very chaotic in there. I don't think it's very pleasant
Well, and
inside
there's a
that
lot
mind.
of emotion
Yeah.
that the kids don't know how to express,
Right.
but if you can get it out through your body.
Mhm.
I don't know, do any of the men have a comment on, did you box when you were a kid? Or
Yeah.
did you find physical activity was important?
Always physical activity, always
Oh.
sports.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a matter of gender. Like
No.
that's,
That, I'm being sexist, yes.
like some humans.
Yeah.
It's humans like physical activity release.
Yeah.
The brain needs release.
Yeah.
And in terms of mindfulness and developmental stages, children learn by connecting with their bodies, and that there's not a developmental stage. Like a lot of 8-year-olds are very self-aware, and kindergarten children can understand what's happening in their bodies and can understand the language behind the sensations of what's going on in their bodies and listening to their bodies and what is their bodies telling them. And there's a lot of mindfulness programs, like there's Mrs. Mindset, where they use a lot of very developmentally appropriate language.
Yeah.
And it's all about like connecting to their breath and understanding what they're feeling. And so I think if we use appropriate language, whatever we're trying to introduce to them, we don't have to talk about is it a boy activity or a girl activity? Is it a human activity? And is it
Guilty as charged.
is it I think that we have to step away from the boxes we've been putting around that and just be like, are we being neuroaffirmative? Are we being respectful? And are we listening to them? And are we letting them letting them lead? And I think as long as we're doing that and we're listening, we're gonna be appropriate.
Can I add to that as well? I have a son who has ADHD as well, and he's often like a bouncy ball that you've thrown as hard as you can in the room and just close the door, just kind of. And one of the things that I've noticed that's really helped him is one, sports, but also helping him identify what his feelings are.
Yeah.
Like sometimes he'll be extra restless if he's extra tired. So just, okay, what's your body feeling? Like,
Oh, beautiful.
trying to figure out, help him through those steps.
Yeah.
And since we've been doing that, like I've been doing that with him since he was pretty much around 3.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that doing that as well as having sports in his life has just really made a huge impact on his overall well-being to the point where he'll say, I feel like I have a lot of energy in my body. Mama, what kind of exercise can we go do? Or can we go outside? Or, those kinds of things. So just being able to help him figure out what his body's doing
And needing.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So it's sort of cultivating mindfulness without getting too overly technical about it. Just connecting with what's real for that little kid in the moment. Yeah. But I do agree that the physical piece, and that's why we come back to the body for ourselves. It's so driven by the body. People who are treated for PTSD now, they're finding that one of the preferred approaches is to recognize that that all that horrible stuff that seems to happen in the mind with PTSD actually begins in the body. And if we can begin to connect with what the body is telling us, that PTSD is much more easily accessed and can be treated more. So the body tells us a lot more than we think. And so the point here for the purposes of tonight's talk is that you always have a refuge in the body and the breath. And so there are times when we lose our inner calm, and everybody does. It is not a criminal offense. And so, but if it becomes something where, this is becoming detrimental to me, can we come back to the body? And it's training the mind to come back to the body, come back to the breath. That is the key to this. Now, the judgment part, I want to say just a wee bit more about that. We need to stop trying to improve ourselves all the time, and just accept what is present. And then the improvements will take care of themselves. We don't have to force things, but we do have to see them. So it's important to notice when you are more animated, lost your cool, angry, terrifically sad, grieving. These are important states to recognize and really respect. I listened to a talk recently by Larry Rosenberg. It's a long time ago, but he was talking about, was it Rosenberg? No, it was Jack Kornfield. Anyway, he was studying with a teacher in, I'm going to say Burma, and it was a very intensive practice. And one of the teachers died during this session. She was old, and I don't know the circumstances of her death, but he was sitting beside the monk that worked with her, the teaching monk who worked with this woman who had died. And the monk, and they were in meditation, and the old man, the monk, cried, sobbed. And I think it was Larry. He was quite taken aback, sort of sitting beside this teaching monk who's sobbing during the meditation session. So he went to him the next day and he said, what was with all your crying? I thought monks were supposed to be, calm and have inner peace and not be bothered by those kinds of emotions. And the guy, he just laughed, the guy, and he said, well, I'd known her for 50 years. She was a very close friend, one of my closest friends. I'm really going to miss her. I was terribly, terribly sad. I had to cry. So having inner calm does not mean suppressing your emotions. It means respecting them and allowing them to flourish. And in our practice that we're talking about here, it means exploring them a little bit. What does it feel like? What does sadness feel like? What does pain feel like? Sadness is a form of pain. What's it like? Here it is. Thich Nhat Hanh says, it's on the next page. With all your questions, now you've thrown me off, you see. Talks about pain. Oh yes, don't run away from painful moments. Right? If they show up, I'm supposed to be calm. No, you're in pain right now. Accept it. This is the reality. There is pain in me, and by pain I mean physical, emotional, whatever kind of pain it may be. Thich Nhat Hanh says, don't abandon yourself in your pain. Don't punish yourself for it. Don't try to throw it away. Someone needs to care for it. Someone needs to care for your pain, and it's going to be you. As my father taught me, this is up to you to figure out. You can do this. And this is also your chance to transform your pain and learn from it and grow from it. So that's why we must never overlook our pain or try to make it go away, because it's there for a reason. It's showing us something. And sometimes the lessons take a long time to learn, but if we gradually move towards the pain, we move through it. And the great value of this is that it does make it easier to bear for us. Some pains never go away, others do. but it also makes us more empathetic with other people. And this is the other point of the whole practice, is it opens us to compassion in the pain of others, because we now understand this is what sorrow feels like. My friend is having to put her dog down tomorrow, and she's very upset. And I just thought, I'm sad too. It's a lovely dog, and we've had good times. And so this is my opportunity to explore. This is what the pain of losing a dog feels like. I know this in myself, so I can be there for my friend because I'm in touch with it myself, and I'm not afraid of it. I'm not abandoning it. I'm not pushing it away. I can take it, and that's the value of that concentration exercise. Is it increases your stamina to be able to hold these difficult emotions without fleeing. No, I can stay with this pain. I got the muscle power to do it in my mind. I can hold it, and if you can hold it for yourself, why, you can hold it for other people as well. And that's what makes the world a better place, isn't it? So this practice seems very interior, finding our inner peace, but the fact is that flows out of you into the world. So another way of looking at inner peace is learning to enjoy being yourself. That's the real point of these practices, is to uncover the pleasure and the joy of life in the moment. Right? There's so much good, and we tend to gravitate toward the darker stuff. I think that's evolutionary. We're trained to see the bad things because it may be threatening to us in some material way, but we do that too much, and we forget how much joy there is. Sometimes emotions are so difficult that we can't hold them. It's too hard, and there we can go outside of ourselves to find the joy that's in the moment. Go for a walk, be in nature, do those things that take you right out of any kind of interior work. Go outside, look at the stars. There's a great big fat star up in the sky tonight. I noticed it when I went out to get my glasses in the car. I don't know if you've noticed it, but it's just huge. I don't know which planet it is. I don't know if it's Venus or Mars or Jupiter. I'm not sure. I have to look it up. But it's gorgeous. But you can always count on stars to take you out of yourself. You look up and it's just. So sometimes we need to find joy in the moment somewhere other than in ourselves. If things are too difficult, it's just too troubled in here, and I'm getting too tied up in knots, move out. Abandon the inner work for the time being and go outside. Share something with somebody else. Bake a cake. Take it to your neighbor. Do whatever something outside yourself.
Come to WTM.
Come to WTM. Yeah. Okay, the other thing, so we're going a bit over my time, but we've had some discussion, so we can come back to discussion in just a second. One other thing I wanted to mention, though, is how unfamiliar we are with that feeling of inner calm. Very few of us are intimate with that. We don't allow it to sit there and flourish within us. So it is important in those moments when you just, for no particular reason, you're feeling good, you're feeling calm, you're well, everything is cool. Explore that feeling. Sit with it. Meditate on it. Find out, oh, there is calmness in me right now. How great. Let's just sit with that and become comfortable with not having the need to be stimulated. And at first it feels weird. I gave a retreat some time ago, last fall, and a woman said, oh, I felt, we did a meditation. I felt such a lifting. There was a space in my head. I was worried about this event, and now after the meditation, that's gone. And now there's a hole, and I don't know what to do with it. Like, I just want to fill up the hole with something else and fill up the space. And my reply was, just enjoy the space. Just enjoy the space. Man, we don't get enough of it. Okay. I'm going to just review what we've talked about in the order in which I've written it down. Stop trying to improve yourself. There's no judgment in this process. Notice the states that you're in. Notice when you're calm and notice when you're not. Take care of both situations. Avoid dramatizing. Don't color it in and add tone and cling to the sensations around. Use language to diffuse the situation in your mind, diffuse that tendency to dramatize. So, this is the worst thing ever, to a terrible thing has just happened. There's a difference. Notice what calmness feels like. Use your place of refuge. You've got the body, you've got the breath. They're very useful. You don't have to believe everything your mind tells you. That was a very important one for me to learn. Kind of a relief, too. Don't run away from painful moments. Don't abandon yourself in pain, because someone needs to care for it, and that's you. And it's your chance for transformation. Learn to enjoy being yourself. Okay. Do you want to do another meditation, or do you have some questions? Meditation? All right. Should we be democratic? Meditation? Oh, okay. With respect to the minority, we'll do a meditation. Then I think we'll have time for a couple of questions if they come up. Right. So this is an adaptation of a meditation for Thich Nhat Hanh, which encapsulates all the things we've been talking about. By the way, I just got back from Vietnam and Cambodia, and I went to see where Thich Nhat Hanh was, where his ashes are in his monastery in Hue, the city of Hue in Vietnam. That was great to see that. Now, this meditation, the full version, is about 20 minutes long. It is available online, and it's the Calm Ease meditation. If you just Google or go into YouTube, and it's Thich Nhat Hanh Calm Ease, CALMEASE. There are several versions. They'll pop up. They're all good. Some are a little more distinct than others, but if you want the full one, that's a really helpful meditation. It's guided, but it's not overly guided. And as I said, it kind of encapsulates all the discussion we've had tonight about reaching a state of inner calm in the present moment. Okay, so let's just relax once more in the body, come to awareness of how it feels to sit in our chair. We'll go about 5 minutes, I think. How would that be? And just have a few moments of silence first. Settle in. Probably got some thoughts rolling around. Just let them sort of roll on out. They will come back, and then we just open the door to let them out again. The body feels stable. It may not be completely relaxed, but it is what it is, and it's yours. And you love it. Breathing in, I know that I am breathing in. Breathing out, I know that I am breathing out. In, out. You can use those two words to stay connected with the breath. Sometimes at the bottom of the breath we wander a bit. The out breath is more difficult. You can pause. There is a body. And just wait for that in breath to come in again. In, out. There is a body. Breathing in, I notice that my breath has become deeper. Breathing out, I notice that the out breath has become slower. Deep, slow. Breathing in, I calm my body. Breathing out, I ease everything. Calm, ease. Breathing in, I establish myself in the present moment. Breathing out, I know that it is a wonderful moment. Present moment, wonderful moment. Are there any final comments or questions or complaints, concerns? was going to listen to Thich Nhat Hanh in the car just to review the meditation, and I thought, oh boy, I better not do that on the Crowchild Trail. Not sure how to explain that to the policeman. Yes, there was a question.
Yes. So you mentioned that there were two types of meditation. One for when you want to get yourself into sleep and one scan, etc. Versus one that is for wakefulness.
Oh yeah.
Can you just elaborate a little more as to the differences or what those two types of meditations are?
Yeah, they're not. Thank you. It's a good question, and for the recording, I'll just repeat it. What could I elaborate a little bit more on the distinctions between a meditation that would be used to help sleep versus one that's a daytime use, for example? I don't think there's a hard and fast division. I think it's partly the practice that works for you. So if let's say the Thich Nhat Hanh meditation, you listen to that at night and that puts you right to sleep, then great, that's your sleeping meditation. And your brain will learn that's the cue to go to sleep. So there are many, many meditations that can be used to help you go to sleep. The purpose of those meditations is to help you go to sleep. Daytime meditations are to help you wake up, to make you alert, to make you present, not to help you go to sleep. So the purposes are very different. But there's no hard and fast rule about which ones you should use for sleep and which ones you should use for wakefulness. But you have to be very clear on your purpose and not confuse them once you've figured out which ones work for you best. Because I have mistakenly tried to use sleep ones in the daytime, and of course I go to sleep. And that doesn't fulfill my intention for a daytime meditation, which is to train my mind, develop the muscles, and develop some insight. And when I use those daytime meditations properly for their purpose and separate them from what I do for sleeping, my day goes better, invariably. I can tell the days I meditate and the days I don't. But it's because I was actively training my mind as opposed to putting my mind to sleep. And both are necessary. We need to be healthy and have good sleep. So if there's a particular meditative technique that takes you to sleep, that's great. But don't start using that one for the daytime. Other than that, I don't think there's any hard and fast rule, is there, Leslie? It's what works for you. But just remember that your intention for most meditation is aliveness, involvement in the world, connection, as opposed to sleep and rest. Does that make sense?
I think, and too, you might experiment to see what works for you.
Yeah.
But generally, you would want to emphasize the relaxation part of meditation rather than that alertness.
Yeah.
So some people use progressive muscle relaxation where they contract and then relax their muscles. And then the other aspect is the breath. You might want to emphasize the out breath because the in breath is more stimulating, out breath is more relaxing. And daytime meditation, it's probably easier to stay awake if you're sitting up than when you're lying down, generally speaking. So, or standing, or doing walking meditation. But there can be a problem with meditating, waking up your brain, because you're used to meditating for alertness, and then you think, well, I'll just do a little bit before I fall asleep, but sometimes it actually wakes you up.
Yeah.
So just be warned that unless you develop a habit of how to use it at bedtime, it could actually lead to some increased alertness.
Yeah.
When you want to fall asleep.
Go first and then you. Is that okay? Yeah.
I just wanted to briefly toss it, like you mentioned the breath. And sometimes I very consciously manipulate my breath, So if your exhalation is longer than and some people don't want to do that when they're meditating. They just want to, allow themselves. And there's times where we just want to breathe naturally and go with the flow. But as you were suggesting, like yesterday I had my blood pressure taken and it was really high. Like very consciously, I'm like, but I don't know if this is actually a real reading, because if I exhale longer, it comes right down.
Yeah.
But I also know people, that if you you make your inhalation slightly longer than your exhalation, it is more activated.
It's when you start manipulating it, then you can experiment, as Leslie says, with different the effects. Some traditions have you counting the breath, and I sometimes have used that for sleep because counting is so boring. Like, I'm not a numbers person, and I just by 5 I'm out. This is just so I go to sleep, but I don't use that during the day just because it's so utterly boring, and I'm better just watching the breath going in and out. The other problem with counting is I get competitive. Like, how high can I get? So.
Really anxious moments where it feels like somebody's squeezing your heart. Is it best to just try and breathe through that? Sometimes I don't know what to do with that.
I think you're on the right track by simply noticing that it feels like something's squeezing my heart.
Yeah.
And then what does that feel like? Yeah. But I'm thinking in your body, you can say it feels horrible, but then you can ask, what does horrible feel like? So what I'm not asking you, how does it feel? I gather that feels horrible, but can you investigate that sensation more? So this is one strategy you can use is, okay, go into the feeling of constricting my heart, and just, what does that feel like? Like, does it really feel like my heart is being constricted, or it's just a physical sensation? So you can explore it as just distance yourself from it. There is a feeling of constriction in my heart, as opposed to my heart is, because then you get escalated into the drama of it and the story and the fear. To simply relax the body. Oh, there is a feeling of constriction in my heart. That sometimes will de-escalate it. So that's one strategy, but sometimes that can make it worse. I mean, it can. You can't help it. It's just, it makes it. So then the breathing through it is another way. Yeah, breathing around it. Breathing in, there's constriction in my heart. Breathing out, but the focus is on the breathing more than the constriction, if you know what I mean. So again, you're using the breath to kind of distance yourself and contain from that feeling, that unpleasant, horrible feeling, but and to contain it so that it's safe. It's got a container. It's in a box. It's in the box of the breathing. And okay, breathing in, there's a feeling of constriction. Breathing out, still a feeling of constriction. Breathing in, feeling of. Other times, if that's not helpful, that's when you need to go out. Yeah, go out of yourself. You just give yourself a break. This isn't a punitive thing where you just have to sit and be tortured. Find a way that's helpful for you, and maybe you just need to take a light approach, and say, okay, constricting heart, I'm taking you outside now. I'm going to go and take a walk. The other thing that I listened recently, and it was Jack Kornfield talking about those kinds of feelings, the mind, kind of coming in on us and making us feel really unhappy, horrible, upset, anxious. But really what the mind is trying to do is help you. Like there's a sense of alarm, and your body is trying to cope with it. It's trying to make it better. So Jack Kornfield talks to his mind. Thank you for help. Thank you for trying to help me. I'm okay for now. I just thank you. I know you're making me all anxious. You're making my heart beat because there's something upsetting here, but I know you're trying to help, but I'm okay for now. You can try that. It's not a strategy that I have used, but I was struck by it. I thought that sounds quite promising. So don't feel that there's a should, that a constricted sensation, I should be doing this. No, what is going to work for me right now? Go towards it, see how close you can get. Breathe a little bit, connect with it, feel sorry for it, cradle it a bit. I mean, you're suffering. That's tough. But sometimes life is too difficult to bear as it is. We're just not up to the task on certain days. And so we go outside or we do something else and just let it find its own place. Come back to it later when it's not so electrified. Be very gentle. We're very fragile beings. We can make ourselves stronger, but we're pretty hard on ourselves sometimes, and we don't deserve that. Would you add anything to that?
I think you did a great job. Another thing would be to pay attention then to your feet and your hands.
Oh, yeah.
So you take your attention, you have a constricted feeling
Yeah.
in your heart.
Yeah, I forgot about
And so one way of spreading your attention, like going outside, if you can't actually go outside, well, you could go to the feeling your hands, or like putting pressure between two hands, or like pressing your feet into the floor.
feet on the floor.
And so
Yeah.
then your attention spreads instead of being focused on that
Mhm.
one area.
Yeah, that's thanks. That's really good. I have used that when you just kind of start to get overwhelmed. But well, my feet are on the floor. It's returning to the body, taking refuge in the physical self, but not that part of the body, not the part that's so troublesome, but finding another spot where, yeah, I know my feet are on the floor, my head is on my shoulders, my hands feel like this. Yeah, that's a good one for anxiety. Yeah.
And as a physician, I would say, have you talked to your doctors? Not to increase your anxiety. Is it worse? If it's worse when you move and better when you rest, probably not your heart, like your arteries. There's always that part of us that needs to talk to a doctor.
You couldn't help it, could you?
That's when I was a physician, family doctor, it would usually be when I thought the visit was over, I had my hand on the door and the patient would say, the other thing is I have this crushing chest pain. Okay, I'm going to get behind. Now I'm getting old enough, I'm watching my own chest pain.
Good question. Thank you. Yeah.
So I guess I'm supposed to ask you, you kind of already did it, but do you have any final words, things you want people to
aren't
sure
you tired of it?
home?
No, I reviewed everything. I can repeat stuff if you want, but no, I've said my piece. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
You are very welcome. It's a pleasure. Thanks everybody for coming.